Oh, I guess I should
thought
make
Rich was
sure.
gonna be really cool to AJ. Like while he was on vacation, he was gonna pull him in for one of our mentors. You know, while he's away. He would have been like, he's on vacation, but today's mentor will be AJ.
Yes. How was that with the mentors? Is it good?
Oh, it was great,
It was
man.
really
Good.
good.
It would have been really funny to see you like, I can't even get a vacation.
Hi, I'm your mentor today.
It was cool to get the exposure.
Good.
And then like kind of look towards with Danny and chat with her on like
Yeah,
the resume and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
yeah, the whole spectrum of
Did
it.
you sign up for the Google thing?
It says that it's for students, people who are enrolled. Like if you go down to the bottom where it says requirements, it says you have to be enrolled in an undergraduate or graduate program.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, so
So it doesn't work.
it doesn't. I don't qualify.
oh, thanks for telling us.
Oh,
Not
hey,
making
man.
us look
You're
bad.
always the leader with those things. Thank you, bro. You saved me $100.
Perfect. At the very bottom,
Yeah.
Oh, what the
something
hell?
that should have been at the top.
Something that should be coded.
See, we know that's a coded issue right there.
Yeah. So
We
So-
know it.
All right. So today, do you all remember the interactive rating component?
Yes, that's the one.
We're gonna build it together in React.
all right, cool.
So
Scratch or from?
I'm
from
glad that I finished it then.
scratch. I haven't built it yet. So this will be the first time I've ever built it.
Very glad I
Should
finished.
so do we use the same one we already built?
We're gonna start over.
Start over.
Okay.
I'm
So
glad I finished.
open up VS Code
Okay.
and or any terminal really, and we're going to cd to code dev island projects.
Okay.
So wherever you keep your projects, most likely you keep them in a similar place that I keep them. Switch the lights as well so that I'm assuming you have a
How
glare.
do you do that?
Huh?
I'm assuming there's a glare.
Yeah.
CD, right? You said CD.
CD, yep. And then it would be tilde slash code slash dev island. And if you hit tab, it'll autocomplete all this stuff for you. So,
It should.
right, tilde slash codes like that, dev projects. Okay.
It should.
Once you're there, you'll run npx and it will be create React app. And we're going to call it 15 interactive rating component. Or maybe we'll just call it IRC.
Hit enter.
That's fine. It doesn't matter what it's called.
It does to me.
Oh, I can go back. So it's the same.
No, I'm going to name it IRC.
Okay.
Because it takes up less room.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to change it.
That's what I'm doing.
It's not picking up on my. I always have problems with that part. It's not picking it up. It's not picking up my.
You got to do CD at the first.
I did, and it didn't do it, so I went back and didn't put CD.
CD space
Yeah, space.
and then
Yeah,
tilde
that's totally
slash code.
slash
Yeah.
and a tab. Yeah. Should.
Well, yeah, if you don't have anything in code besides dev island.
Oh, okay.
So dev, just type D and hit tab. And then P and hit tab.
Okay.
Hit enter.
Okay. Let's see.
And then do that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm looking for funding.
Yes, there's all sorts of fun advertisements whenever you run npm install now from different people looking for funding that are writing open source software that we all consume. So
Makes sense.
buy them a coffee
Yeah.
once you make money doing this.
The thing that and buy them coffee.
Yeah. Doesn't really make sense to give them money when you're not making money from it
No.
yet. So, all right, I'm gonna hit enter. It should run through, do a create React app, and it's gonna go through it. And it's gonna make us a thing. We did this last time, right, with the
Mhm.
taco one?
We did.
So I don't need to go through and show all the folder structure, right? So if you need to know the folder structure, I believe there was a video on it back in June. So, sweet. How's the baby?
Cute as hell.
Nice.
Tuesday.
Get a picture
All right, so once it's done, then you should now have a folder that's called 15 underscore IRC or whatever you called it. So we're gonna CD. So in fact, here is the suggestions, right? So we're gonna CD in, so CD 15, tab, and then, nice. Looks like two different babies.
Yeah, and it goes in places.
Really?
Face that's chunky.
Yeah,
Awesome.
cute kid. All right, so once you CD in, you're gonna notice that it is a Git repository already, right? So all that stuff it just ran and created all those files, and then if I git log, it's gonna show me it did an initialize project using create React app. So it's already done a commit too. So everything's already committed in my first one.
Hey, master. Why is mine Go master?
That's a setting in your Git that we could have to fix.
Isn't it the same thing now? On this one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Name, yeah, but like, I thought I got rid of that option.
Yeah.
We play with it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so now it's already run npm install. Notice we have all these different scripts we can run. The only one we're going to care about today is npm start. So once you cd into 15 IRC, then run npm start.
How we, isn't it Command C or is it Control C when you want to stop it?
It's Control C.
Control C.
Yep, when you want to stop it.
Okay.
So it should open your browser for you. And if you look at your terminal, it's going to tell you, hey, it started. Yours is probably running at 3000. I don't know why I'm running at 3001. I must have something else already running somewhere.
I'm getting,
You can't get out of the end.
So I got a little issue here.
Initialize project using create React app.
Hmm.
Now it's on end.
Oh, you've got like a Git repo up higher that you're sitting in.
What did you just press?
Q.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, somewhere really high, like in your home folder. It looks like you have a Git folder. Which
Well, I was trying to
don't
do that.
have that.
And I was trying to figure out how to keep that FAQ. I must have did, oh no, it's probably the validation.
Yeah, so we have Git right there.
Yeah.
We don't have that. So, oops. Oops. Alright. Yep.
Nice.
The other thing we need to do, I'll be right there, is if you see that purple bar at the bottom, that means I'm not in the actual project. So I'm going to stop my React server and I'm going to run code dot. And that will open this in code. And then I can just close the other one. So, because I want to be in an actual project rather than have it be. I hate that it has this test one now. Okay, so, and then npm start once you're in the project. So you have the blue bar, so you're good.
It goes in that and.
Oh, hit Q. Yeah, so if you do get log, then it's Q to get out of that one.
Yeah, okay, so I need to run.
Write code, and then space it out. And then you can close that out a little bit. Yeah, you just hit that right up there. Here you'll open up the terminal. And then start. Okay. Alright, so now, yeah, so it should open.
No, it's pretty cool. It opens the browser.
It'll open a browser. I don't know when I'm running at localhost 3000. I think I have another project running from work. So mine's running at 3001. It doesn't matter. It'll automatically run at a port. And if that port's taken, then it'll ask you, do you want me to still run it and do a different port? And you can say yes. So that's what happened to me. So we see this thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get rid of that thing. So I'm gonna put this here.
I don't have that.
You don't have this?
I just have the
No, the
browser.
sidebar.
What sidebar?
Is that what you're talking about, getting rid of the sidebar, yeah?
What
So you're
sidebar?
saying this row?
This?
Yeah, what, is that what you were talking about?
That's just from my Mac.
No, okay, but that's what I'm saying.
I was talking about this.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Did it open localhost 3000? Somewhere?
Doesn't say.
If you go into your VS Code, you should see this, like, you can view in your browser. And if you hold command and then click that, it'll open it in your browser. Did you run npm start?
Oh, it says you cannot view on localhost 3000. So do I just open there?
Yeah, do you have a full screen browser somewhere open that it maybe went to? So you can just hold command and then so it should normally just open for you. So then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna push this over the side, push this over this side, and we're going to open up, so if you hit Command P and type app, we're gonna open up app.js. And that is where all of our code for this page here is at. And we're going to get rid of everything inside of here. So leave the div with class name app. We'll just leave it with the class name.
So just
Okay.
everything, yeah?
Yep. Once you save it, it should go a white screen like that. Okay.
So, sorry. I'm 15.
Uh-huh.
Not that out.
You should. It's in source. If you hold command, if you hit Command P and just type app, it'll show you all the different apps that you have available. So, as you're working in React, you're going to use Command P a lot more than trying to go through the sidebar because things get buried. Yeah, you'll have a lot of files. Yeah, you'll pretty much never go in node modules.
I didn't want to.
Yes.
Sorry, even though it's just- I was looking at the ISO.
Yeah. So we're also gonna get rid of this logo import because we're not gonna use that anymore.
Bye, logo.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna open up, so Command P again, and I'm gonna open up that CSS file. And I'm gonna pretty much clear it out too. I'll leave the app one. But I already have a little bit of CSS that I created specifically for this so that we wouldn't have to create it from scratch.
When you take over the app, I mean, that's the CSS, what did you take out?
Everything except for,
the word app.
yeah, except for the class.
Gotcha.
So, and, you know, I might end up just taking that out too. I don't really like using capital letters in my class names too. Yeah, let's kill it. Nothing in app.js or app CSS, and then I'll just get rid of this too. So, all right, so I'm gonna copy this over and then I'll paste it in Slack for you all. Just the little CSS I wrote. Let's go here. 0. I guess we can. Yeah, I'm just gonna do that much. Save that, and then I'm gonna paste this into Slack for you all to copy over.
Resources.
Yeah, we'll do it in resources. So if you grab that, paste it into your app CSS. Then you should have a black screen instead of a white screen. Oh, the other thing we might want. I'll grab those when I need them. Yeah. Once you put in app CSS and save it. Go back to app.js and we'll see what it's got. Yeah,
It should be. Okay, we'll try again.
try refresh. One will work.
Yeah, because I think I'll skip one. Maybe we can see. Let me just look at all my stuff.
Oh, you didn't get all of it.
Oh, okay. Look at that. So I can do it.
Scroll down. There.
There we go. Okay.
You just missed the one. No, just grab the body one.
I ain't doing it.
Okay.
What did you make me do?
I didn't do anything. It's not my fault.
So it already had it all.
You just need the body one.
Okay, there we go. Let's make this work.
Command A.
Command, oh wow. That's what we need.
That selects all. Select all is Command A.
Command A. Okay, now let's see what we got.
Black screen.
Sweet. Sweetness.
Beautiful. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make different components. So whenever you're working React, the best thing to do is look at the designs and kind of plan how you're going to build it, as opposed to just building it, right? So I'm going to open the designs. So let's go this. Okay, so here I have the designs. Oh, I'm gonna have some images that I need too. So we'll have to grab those in a second. I'll throw them in Slack for you all as well. Plus images. Probably already have them, but we'll just do this so that you don't have to look for them.
Wanna start mobile first?
Is there a difference?
Not really. Maybe they look the same other than just the size of the
Yeah.
margins and stuff.
Yeah, I'll build it for mobile and then we'll scale up from there. But I think, I mean, maybe it's a little, is it skinnier?
Not much, but
Yeah, it might be a little skinnier.
it looks like the word support doesn't fit on mobile versus the desktop.
Yeah, so it is a little skinnier on the mobile. Okay. Okay, so yeah. So as we look at this, we've got a card component here, right? And then we've got a button component. We've got maybe a title here, some text here. We've got this star up here that kind of looks like that button. We've got this submit button. Okay, this is what it looks like when it's active. So we've got a hover state, and then is this selected?
The 4, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you've selected it and pressed it, it turns that color.
Mm-hmm.
When you're hovering, it's orange. When you hover on this, it turns white,
Mm-hmm.
and the words turn orange, so it inverts, right? Because it was orange with white text before. Okay. And then after you hit submit, it takes you to this screen and tells you what your selection was and thanks you. So again, you have that same card, but you have like an image here, and you have this kind of looks like a button, but it's like a pill kind of thing. And then we've got these. So we're going to build out some different components for each of these things. Okay. So we'll start with the mobile design. I'll open this guy up and this one up. Okay. And I will put those over here, and this one over here, and this over here. Okay. So first off, I'm going to build the card, because the card's going to be reused between two different views. So I'm going to come over here to my source, and I don't want to muddy up the source too much, so I'm going to create a new folder and call it components. Okay, this is a standard term in React. As you're building different pieces of UI, we call them components. Okay. And inside of components, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it card with a capital C.js. So this is another standard thing is, we talked about this with React. When you use DOM elements that are normal DOM elements, writing normal HTML, you use lowercase. When you create your own components, it's going to be uppercase to start. Okay, so same thing. It's good to have the file name be the same as the component name, so it's easier to find them. Okay, so we're going to have card.js, and we're going to say, app.js has this function app. You could do that and then export it. You can also throw the export default right there. So there's many ways to write these. I prefer to say const card and then use an arrow function. So that's my preference, but you can do it however you want. A lot of times I just export the const directly, and then on my import I use a destructured import. Okay, So, but you can do an export default as well. When you use the const, you can say export default card. Oops. Okay, and not export it this way. And then you wouldn't destructure. So we'll look at that in a second when we import, but I'm going to do it like this. And then I'm also going to create a CSS file for this. Okay, so that the CSS for this component lives in its own file as well. So we'll just continue to do CSS that way for now. As we get more used to React, then we'll learn how to do CSS within React as well. Okay. So I'm going to create another file inside of components, and I'm going to call that one card.css. I'm just going to put it in there so it sits right next to it. And maybe since we're doing this, I'll create a new folder inside of components called card and put both of those inside that folder. Okay, so card CSS and card JS are both inside of this components folder inside of card. So in VS Code
So
made
you
it.
just did it. It's the card command, yeah. That was it. You just put both inside card.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I made a new folder, and then once there's multiple folders, this is something I don't love about VS Code. It does this where
Yeah, okay.
until you have another folder, then it, or another file in here. Then
Okay,
it'll-
so you did card in a folder, you didn't do it in a file.
no, a folder.
Okay.
Yeah, so delete that one. Folder, card, and then drag card CSS and card JS. Nope,
It was just Swedish first.
drag those in. And then once that's moved, it will automatically,
See what going?
yeah. And once we have new stuff inside of components, then card will no longer sit like this.
Oh, okay.
So it'll go, I don't love that state, it's weird, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's not my favorite,
I didn't finish that sentence.
so. All right, so everybody's there?
Yes.
Okay. So in card CS or in card JS, we're going to build out just the card, right? So we're going to, because it is the only thing that we'll be sending back, we'll just return it implicitly. So if you take away the curly braces and do regular parentheses, yeah, then we're going to put it in like that. Okay. And then we'll say class name equals card. And up inside of the parameters for this function, we're going to accept a object, and that object will have a children. So essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to have this background thing be the card, and whatever you pass in with however it's styled will be here. Okay, and we'll style how this card's width is and its padding and all that stuff and its margins, but the rest of it will be up to the interior components. Okay, so we're going to just say children. Okay, and then saving it will automatically put it all on one line because there's not that much for card.
So children is also an object within the div class.
So anytime you use JavaScript within the JSX, so you put these curly braces around it.
It's a parameter.
So here it's a parameter,
Okay.
and here it's just JavaScript.
Ah.
So like if I was to do any other JavaScript here, I can do, console.log, whatever, right?
Okay.
So, hey, and this would run as JavaScript.
Okay.
So that's how you put any JavaScript in, is wrap it in curly braces.
Dope.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So you can't put like, I guess you could put if statements and whatnot, but I'll show you how to
When would
do
I use that?
conditionals.
I mean, and that, I can also put the dollar sign in the, the end of a run, up in that area too. That, I don't have to put that in.
You don't need the dollar sign because this isn't a template or a template literal.
Oh, okay.
This is just how JSX knows, oh, hey, this is a JavaScript. Because if I didn't have this, then it would just be the word children,
Yeah, gotcha.
right?
Okay.
So now it knows, okay, this is JavaScript, there is a children variable in scope. If I get rid of the N, then it says, oh, this is a variable that's not defined, right?
Yeah,
So,
But in the case that you want curly brackets inside of this, would you just quote it out in your text?
in your text,
Yeah.
you would need to use,
One of those cancel out.
yeah, well, one of the HTML safe ones. I can't remember what it is, but it'd be like ampersand,
Yeah. I know
um,
what you're talking about.
yeah, brace, I don't know what it is, left brace maybe, something like that, I don't know. So,
Dollar pounds.
yeah, I know ampersand is like that. So, and those are HTML entities, I think, you can look them up, HTML entity for curly brace, if you needed a curly brace in your stuff. So, I guess the other thing you could do is do like a string with a curly brace in it, like that. So, if you don't, right? So, but yeah, in this case, just children. We're also going to import at the top our CSS file. So card.css, and that just brings it in. Remember, Webpack knows what to do with that. And that's all we need for our card component. We're going to jump in our card CSS and write just a little bit of CSS for it. We'll probably come back to it and fix it later, but for now we'll just jump there. Okay, and we're going to say .card, which is what the class name we gave it was, and background is going to be linear gradient, which is going to have some variable names here. It's like bar. I need to look in apps CSS to know what they're called. So I think it goes from dark blue to very dark blue. Dark blue, comma, bar, very dark blue. I think that will do it, right? So now we're going to go to our app.js, and I'm just going to put a card in here. Then we'll put how did we do? Okay, and notice the import has these curly braces. That's what I meant by destructuring. So when we did export const, it exported a variable named card. If we did export default, then we would just name it whatever we wanted, because it's just the default thing that's coming out. In this case, we have it as a const, but I didn't have to type any of that, because as you type card, it should allow you to hit tab or enter on this that comes up, and on the IntelliSense, and then it'll do this default or this import automatically for you.
Really? That's if you,
Yeah, if you remember to click on it or hit
Wow.
enter.
if you entered it correctly the first time.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can see up at the top, how did we do is right here, like tiny. It's awful. So we need to write some more CSSs.
No, we did.
Yes. So in our app CSS, let's see, I guess we need a class name here in our app.js, and we're going to call that app because we're not original. Try to pull that over so I can show both. And then at the bottom of app CSS, I'm going to do app. Really, probably all this should have been in our index CSS. I think there's an index, but I'm going to do display flex, and then I'm going to say align items center, justify content center. Okay, and then I'm also going to do height 100 view heights so we get it right in the middle. So now you should have your card thing should be in the middle here like this. Okay, and then as far as the design goes, I'm just going to kind of guess that this is maybe 20 pixels, maybe 40 pixels. We'll play around with it and kind of just see what it is. Or what looks similar, but I'm not gonna care if it's perfect. So back in the card CSS, on the card, I'm gonna say padding is 40 pixels. That's probably about right. Border radius, I'm gonna do 4 pixels. Let's look at the design again. We're gonna go a little larger than that, maybe 8 pixels. Looks fine to me. The question is the coloring right? We think it doesn't look quite right? So I wonder if we do to black here instead. I don't think it's black. Yeah, that doesn't really work. So I'm not going to worry about the coloring for now. We'll come back and fix it after. This looks too bright though. Top one?
The background color is just blue
For which one?
card, but
Just blue?
yeah. I'm gonna double check.
What's the value though? Because I don't have a blue.
Yeah. Blue, I think, just takes place at very dark blue. Or for me. Or for dark blue.
So 213, 19, 18? Okay.
I just didn't do a linear gradient.
Okay. So I'll just leave it as is for now. Or if I go 0% and then 100%. Oh, nope, that's not how you do it. Just gonna leave it. Okay. Okay, so we have the card here, and we're gonna say, I'm also gonna put a margin on it because we do have a little bit of space here, which is looks like it's about, I don't know, do you think that's the same here and there? Okay, this looks too big, maybe, but we'll see. So I'll say margin is also 40 pixels, just in case. Alright, and the rest of it will be kind of up to whatever gets passed into it. So, wonder if it's very dark blue. Anyway, I'll kind of figure that out later. Dude, these don't even look like the colors that they've given me.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Look
a,
like a gray.
yeah, like a bluish gray, yeah. And
Yeah.
the one that we,
That is a gradient though.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
lighter here than it
But
is
not
there.
Not such a big variation, it's very gradual.
Here, if I can,
It's like this one here, I can tell that it's,
if this doesn't tell me what the color is. It's done.
black and black and.
Yeah, I'll figure it out later. We'll just use that for now.
So sad.
I know. Alright,
It's called Bat King Gray.
so, yeah. So it looks like we have a title, right, on both of these, and then some text. So I'm going to create some CSS for the title. Well, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'll have inside the card, we'll just have a class in the app CSS that does that. So that way, because it's sometimes you don't want to go too micro on your components, right? Like I don't want to have a title component that all it is some CSS on something. I can do that in app where I'm going to use it in app. If I'm going to use it all over the place, maybe it should be a global CSS thing, and I just add the class name, or it can be, as we get into writing JavaScript classes, then yeah, you'd have smaller components that have CSS attached to them. So for now, we're just going to have it be a part of the app. So in app.js, in this first card, I'm going to create a h1, and we're going to give it a class name of title, and it'll say how did we do. Okay, and then we're going to put a paragraph here and give it a class. Well, I don't think we even. Yeah, we'll just give a class name of copy or body. Copy. I like copy. And this will be. Please let us know how we did with your support request. All feedback is appreciated to help us improve our offering! Exclamation point. Okay. So both of those. Up above, we're going to have this star component here, which will have essentially the same CSS as these, except for you won't be able to select it, right? So we'll have to remember that when we're building this one out. Okay, so let's go ahead and build it out. So we're going to say in here, components, new folder. So make sure you click on, or right click on components to do new folder so it doesn't end up in card. So right click on components, click new folder, and we're going to call this, I want to call it button because this will be called button. So we'll call this one,
Rating?
what?
Rating?
Yeah, we could call it rating. Let's do that. Rating. And then inside of rating, we're going to have two files, a rating.js and a rating.css. Okay, we'll start in rating.js. So when you get in there, it should say source components, rating.js. Right? We're going to start by export const rating equals, okay, and again it's going to have this, but this time it's not going to be an implicit return because we're going to have some stuff here, right? So we'll have some sort of state possibly. So I'm going to do a return, and this will be button. We for sure will have children, so we'll pull that in. Okay. And then at the top, let's import the CSS file. We gotta do a dot slash. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to do is we need to handle clicking on them, right? So, except for this one, we don't want to have that one clicked on. So we probably need to have it say whether or not it's disabled. So, and that would tell us if it's disabled, then you can't click on it. So let's go ahead and say disabled is one of the props we're getting. So, and that's what this object is. This is an object of properties, and in React we call them props. Okay, so we get all these props in, and then we use those within our components to make things smarter, right? So this is a dumb component that gets these props in, and it doesn't care how you render it as long as it gets some of the props or all the props. Okay, so disabled will be, let's set it to true or to false. So this will be equals false. The default for that prop is false, and then and then the last thing we want is we want to have an on click. Okay. So, and that will be if we can click it. So let's create a new function inside of here that's called handle click. And we'll give that to the buttons on click. Okay, notice we have on click right on the button. Okay, it's 2 words, so anytime it's 2 words, you're going to camel case in React. And then because this is a variable of a function that we're giving up here, instead of having this in quotes like a normal attribute, we put it in curly braces. Okay, so same thing as inside of the component where you use curly braces for JavaScript. You're going to use it here. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so handle click up here, it's going to get an event, which we may not use. But what we're going to say is, if it's not disabled, then we'll call this on click function. Okay, and what we'll pass it is the children. The children. Okay. Maybe instead of children, we'd do. Yeah, we could do children. Trying to decide. Maybe instead of having children, we have a one called value, but children would be fine too. So we'll just pass it to children. So we're going to say if disabled, return. Okay. Otherwise, call on click and pass it children. Okay, and then we can also put disabled right here. So it'll make it so that you shouldn't be able to click it anyway. But we'll also check to see before we fire the on click, because somebody could take the disabled attribute off in the HTML inspector. So we'll just make sure that the handle click will never actually call the on click if it's ever disabled. Everybody here?
Yeah.
Almost. So in our rating CSS now we need to write some codes, but we also need to throw a class name on here. So class name rating. Yeah. I think this one must be the very dark, right? Because this is also blue. What other colors did it give me? So let's try card CSS. Let's go. I'm just gonna comment this out and say background is very dark blue and see how that looks, because I need that to show up and these to show up. So let's go back to rating now. Rating, background color are dark blue. And then I'm going to throw a height of 20 pixels and width of 20 pixels. And border radius of 100% to make it a circle. I'm also going to make it display flex, and then I'm going to align item center and justify content center. So whatever it gets passed in goes in the middle. Okay, everybody got that?
Almost.
Almost.
What was that over there? Oh, okay.
Okay. It's gonna bug me. The gradient on that. Alright, so now go back to app.js and we're gonna add the rating. So notice I'll just start typing rating here, and then VS Code will say, oh, do you mean this component? And then if you click on that or hit enter when it's there, it'll automatically do the import. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter, and I get this rating import. Okay. So in this case, it's going to be a star. So I'm going to put an image in there. Image source equals slash let's see if there's an images thing here. So I gave you that folder. Did I give that folder in Slack yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that folder in Slack, let's just pull it straight into the source folder. So I'm just gonna grab it and drop it, and you should have an images folder now. Okay, so from rating or from app.js, you should be able to say /images/ and then what's it called? Icon star. Oh, it's SVG. Icon star.svg start star alt is star. Okay. So let's see. Can't find the image. So what we're going to do is, instead of this being the source, the source is going to be image or star icon like this. Okay, and you should have a red scrolly line underneath it. And then up here underneath the rating import, we're going to say import star icon from, and then that will be images / icon. Let's see, images / what is it? Icon - star. Icon - star dot svg. Okay. And that worked. Okay. But we can see that is not the right size. So we're gonna have to jump back into our rating CSS and fix the sizing. So it's 40 by maybe 45 by 45. Yeah, 40 by 40. Okay. So jump back in rating CSS, change the height and width to 40 pixels. And then we also want to get rid of the border none. And now we've got that nicer. Again, the colors are wrong because that does not look the same. Right? So I'm gonna have to figure out what that background is. It's gonna drive me insane.
Where were the styles in CSS?
Rating CSS?
No, I meant for the list of the variables. There's
Yeah,
an-
app CSS.
Okay, there's medium gray, light gray.
Well, I think that the rating one is this dark blue. That looks correct to me. Those look the same to me. But then
There's style bigger.
this, oh yeah, here. Yeah, we can fix that. But this obviously is not the same color.
That's that.
So whatever this color is, but this one is not the same as this.
It was like a blue.
Well, I changed
tint.
this to not be a gradient anymore.
Yeah, it's like a gray and that's a blue.
Do a very dark blue on for the background?
Yeah, I just changed it to straight, very dark blue.
And why a very dark blue one is black? But it's
I don't know. It's whatever the very dark blue is. Guess we could do that. That's pretty close. It does change it, so maybe. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not.
The original one, the colors were different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that. This one has a more gray.
Yeah, the
So-
other one had light gray, medium gray. This one.
I have the grays, right? Light gray and medium gray. But it- I think these must be like this. And I don't know. This looks like the dark blue again to me. So I don't know.
background isn't that just the blackness?
Yeah, I made that one.
Hard background is RGB 3340.
Card. There was a card background.
And the other one,
Did I miss one? I don't see a card background. I don't see a card background in my style guide.
It was just a background.
I made this main background. It wasn't in there.
Yeah, but like in the original project, I don't remember the
You don't remember a card background? Okay. So we'll just do it for now, what it was, and I can inspect it later and try and figure it out. All right, so in app CSS though, we also want to add title, and that one's going to be color is was there a white in here? Yeah, white. And then font size. Actually, I think it looks basically the same to me. Right? So I don't think we even need to do anything with that. And then also copy is color bar white. Oh no, it was like light gray. Okay.
Looks cooler on the TV.
Yeah, it looks better on my screen than up there. Looks really blue on the screen
On this or your screen?
up there.
Yeah, because here it looks just gray.
So they're starting to look similar-ish. I'm thinking maybe that this is only like 30 pixels instead of 40 on the card. So I'm gonna go change card to be 30. Go 30. It's a little better. And then, all right. So next, we need to throw all the ratings out. So this is where I will show you. Just close all these. That one. So I'm gonna, just for, just to show you how the map thing works that I was talking about, I'm gonna create at the top of app const ratings, and it will be an array, okay? And it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw a div here with a class name of ratings. And then here, I'm going to use JavaScript. So I'm telling you this, everything inside of here is going to be JavaScript, right? So we say ratings, which is that variable that we created up here, that array. We're going to say dot map. And then remember, map gets a callback function, and the callback function gets these values. So it gets the current value, the index of that value, and then the full array. So we care about just the value in this case. So I'm going to say rating, and then arrow function, and then implicitly returns, and this will be our rating component. Okay, and our rating component in this case is going to say, is going to get the value of rating. So notice I again threw quotes in here because once we open up JSX like a tag, then we're back in JSX. Even though we're inside of JavaScript here, we still throw another JavaScript there. Okay, so we get our rating is our children, and then we also need an on-click function, right? So up here we need to send in disabled. So we can just put disabled. You can also say equals true if you care, but sending just setting disabled like this will automatically send it true. Okay, so this one's disabled, so you can't click on it, right? And then this one is, well, we need to go back and make those white, right? So, and then this one's going to say there should be an on-click, and that on-click is going to be, we're going to put a new function up here, const handle rate. Okay, and remember we're passing the value, so we'll say val. For now we're just going to console.log the val. Okay, and then here we're going to say handle rating. Okay, so you should have all these buttons here.
What was that? Const handle rating equals.
Handle
Okay.
rating. We're just
Val.
console logging the
Okay.
value.
Gotcha. Make sure I got the val.
Okay, you all there? So if you open up your console and you click one of those, you should see the value get logged out for that one, right? Okay, so now let's throw some more CSSs in here. I'm going to open up ratings CSS and just do let's That looks like the light gray. So color is var light gray. Yeah. And then it still looks like these don't look big enough, right?
They're vertical, so it's kind of hard to tell. They're not spaced out.
Says it's 40 by 40. And it also claims to be 40 by 40. So, all right. So that's all we're changing in rating CSS. Go to app CSS, and then we're going to add a ratings. And this will be display flex. And then we'll say, let's see. Maybe it's because these are too small. I think it's supposed to be 15 pixels though, and I think that's what I set it at. I'll double check in a minute. All right. We're going to give it a gap of, or we'll go display or justify content, space between. Can't see what I think that gap is. Maybe it's just because of the size of the screen. Let's try this. Put this on the bottom. Move this down. And then turn that on. Kind of looks similar-ish. So, okay, so 75 by okay, and then we wanted we want that pointer finger instead of the arrow when you're hovering. So that's the other thing we need to add from rating CSS. Right, so cursor, pointer. Okay, and then we also need to do a rating hover, background color, bar, orange, rating dot selected. It's going to be background color, bar. And then what does that look like?
Like that medium gray.
Is it the medium one? Yeah. And then the color of the text is white, looks like. Is it the medium gray or is it the light gray?
Maybe like that.
We'll try medium and see. The other thing is that this needs to have color white as well. Okay, and then we also need to have it handle when it's selected, right? So let's go back to our rating.js. And we're going to add another property that comes in, and it will be called selected. And class name, now we need to have this class name be dynamic. Okay, so we're gonna put this in quotes and change, oops, and then change it to the backticks. So it's going to have rating, but then we're going to throw some JavaScript here and say we're going to throw an inline conditional. So we say selected question mark, and so if it is selected, then we add selected, and if not, then we just will have a blank string. Okay. Rating JS.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we get,
Rating.
we're adding this selected prop, and then we're changing our class name to be JavaScript, pass it a string literal, right? So in this case, we do need to use the $. Rating will always be there, but this one will say if it's selected, then that. Okay.
My header isn't changing the style of covering most of that.
And this,
Just don't have a period in front.
oh yes, you need the period as well.
It is working now.
Perfect. Selected won't work yet. Okay.
Selected on that bottom click.
Notice there's no space here.
There, I'm missing something. The star highlights.
Uh-oh. Ready for this? Not disabled. Not disabled. Actually, this one we don't need to do it on because it can never get selected because it can never have the on click happen.
Well, it still has the pointer, but
Oh. Also, no, we want all that stuff. So let's say rating not or we'll just do it disabled. Disabled cursor default.
Yes.
Okay.
Click on the sheet.
Well, I'm glad that you're testing it. Okay. So those all work. Still console logging. So now let's go fix our handle click. And in this case, we're going to start using some state. This is where React really comes in handy, is we can hold the state of whatever the selected one is. Okay, so you all built this in regular JavaScript already. This is probably much easier already, yeah?
I think it's cool. I'm gonna get a lot faster.
Yeah. Okay, so then we go back to our app.js, and up in our handle rating function, above it, we're going to put a new const here. And this is going to be an array. So we're going to destructure this. And the first part of the array, so remember, did JS30 talk about destructuring? Okay. So in destructuring, we've destructured a little bit, right? Here's an object we destructured, in our rating component, we've got this object. So, and we're destructuring it here. This is the same thing as if we were to say, we just call this props, okay? And here we could say, instead of having disabled here, we'd have props dot disabled, right? So props is an object. We can also here say, okay, we know props is an object, and we're gonna pull pieces off of props based on the names of those things, okay? So props should have a disabled, it should have an on click, it should have children, it should have selected, right? So if those keys exist on the object that's passed in as props, then we pull those off, right? So I'm just gonna put them back because I want those. But you've seen that, right? That makes sense? The destructuring on an object? Okay, so the destructuring of a array is similar, but arrays don't have names. So like here's an array, right? So if I was to then destructure this array into variable names, which don't do this because we're not going to use this, but let's say I had rating, or first rating equals ratings. Okay, so now what I did is I've created this variable name called first rating, and it is the first part that is in the array, which we know is number 1. Okay, so then I could say comma second rating, which would be the second item in the array, which is number 2. So these aren't based on the names like in an object. This is just based on the index of the array. Okay, so there is a function in React. So we're going to import at the top, and we're going to destructure from React. Okay, and what we're going to import is called use state. Okay, and this is a function that React gives us that returns an array. Okay, so we know we get an array back, and we're going to destructure that array. And this function that React has is going to take an initial state, and in this case we don't want it to have an initial state, so we just won't pass anything to it. But if we wanted it to have an initial state, we could pass it here, and that way we could start it off however we want it to be. But right now this is going to be where we hold our current rating. Okay, so I'm going to call this user rating and set user rating. So again, this is an array, so this is just the first index in the array is the state, and the second index in the array is the function that sets the state. And I can name these anything I want. Does that make sense? Kind of? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay. So, so here we're going to use this set state, this set user rating. We're going to use it inside of our handle rating. So handle rating is called whenever we click any of these rating buttons, and it gives us the value back. So we're just going to say set user rating and pass it the value. Okay, so notice this doesn't do very much. We could just give set user rating straight to this on click and it would do the same thing, right? Because we get the value back. But we're just going to throw it in like this for now, in case we need to change anything else. That's another way you can do it based on how we have this code written. Okay, so now our user rating will get updated whenever we click one of these. So let's also pass in our rating. Remember, we have the selected. So what we're going to say is user rating, which is that state variable, is equal to rating. And rating is the current value in this array that we're mapping through. So if the user rating is equal to the rating that we are currently on, then selected will be set to true. Otherwise, it's going to get a false. Okay? Once you save that, if you come over and you click one, it should get the selected class. Is it working? No? So you can also look at your elements in the inspector and inspect the button and see if it has that class on it, because it could be your CSS for rating. So I'll open these as well. So if it's not working, could be that you have a space here instead of just one word. Okay, and then rating JS, it should have this in class name. The dogs are going crazy. Is yours working?
Man, I have so many things that I haven't
Me
input.
too.
So, yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
waiting,
even-
because I'm not as quick as a
I don't
typer.
even try.
So what I do, I say, okay, you know what? If it goes back to that, I'll try to catch up. But no, I know it's recorded, so I know I'll get it out.
All right.
Yeah, I learned not to
It
stop
says
you.
error.
I learned it's so much better, let you keep flowing and then get it later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So he's the only one.
I'd like it to work.
Me too.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure it is going to work out just.
Look at every
I just gotta
single thing.
So-
I can't-
Here's the app.js again.
Let's see what the app.js fixed. Where's the phone?
I'll come look at yours and see.
Yeah, go.
You guys get caught
Go
up.
over there. Don't go over here. Go over there. Don't go over there first. Let me catch up a little bit. I don't feel so lonely.
when you click one of these buttons.
Oh, it's a response.
Copy.
No.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so oh, you got this value right here.
Ratings. I need to go down. I have all this already. I don't have the. I didn't put all that. He put the please let us know how we are. He's going to do that later.
Easy peasy.
Ratings. Just gotta go down. Because I need the bottom half. That's what I'm missing. All that.
Oh.
So, yeah, can I have all that?
Can I scroll down, Sandy?
Yeah, I think she's.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That's where I lost. Oh, yeah, so extra. Some extra stuff going on here. Like that. Oh, that was
You want to get rid of that?
yeah, get rid of this one.
No.
What's that?
And the extra, you have an extra curly brace.
Yeah. Wait me down here, yeah.
Nope, right where your cursor was. Should only be one.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
And then you have another extra one here.
Alright, select the user rating. Oh yeah, and then we got the gotcha. And the 3. And then rating.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming together a lot more quickly than doing them all separately
Yes.
and then going back.
And then easier to manage the state of what's happening. Right.
So let's go.
So the next thing we need to add is the button. Right? So we'd say button class name equals submit I call it submit button, or maybe I'll call it button submit I like that better. Okay, and then this says just submit inside of it, right? Yeah, because it's lame. Okay, so now if I look at my browser, got that submit button, and I'm gonna end app CSS. I'm gonna throw it down on the bottom instead, so that I can leave that open for you all. So I'm gonna say button, or I guess it was button submit, and that is going to be background bar orange, color bar white, and then on hover it's the opposite. Okay, the other thing we need on here is width 100%, border none, so border radius, nope, let's go 50%. No, let's go 20 pixels. 50 pixels. 20 pixels is probably good. And then padding. So 10 pixels. Margin. Top 10 pixels. Yeah. More 20 pixels. 30 pixels. Sure. Nah, I like 20 better. Okay. So now, oh, and then also cursor, pointer.
Are there cooler cursors than
There's all sorts of weird cursors. If you go in and delete it and then hit Control Space, it'll show you all the different ones. How about crosshair?
That's cool.
Or there's
Word out, but no, Microsoft Word.
not allowed,
Ah,
or no drop, or apparently none is a thing, so just no cursor.
None. Okay.
So just say pointer.
That's just very Mickey Mouse hand, isn't
Yes. You can also set like an image and make your own cursor.
it? Just me on
Yeah.
It's like my face, yeah, going around.
Hi.
Yeah, that'd be
this.
Okay.
Contrast
Okay.
them.
So now,
always happy.
sorry, I added a whole bunch of CSS.
Oh, hey, it's all
You'll have
good.
to watch the video.
Hey, I'm good.
Okay, so now we're going to add on the submit an on submit or an on click, right? And this one will be handle submit, which doesn't exist yet, but it will up here. Const handle submit equals, and we're going to catch the event and just prevent default just in case it tries to refresh the page. because it's a button, and I sometimes do that. Normally only if they're in a forum. Alright, so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new state up here. Okay, and this one's going to be called user submitted, and then set user submitted equals use state, and we're going to pass false to this. Oops. Okay, so our initial state here is false, and we're going to say set user submitted inside of our handle submit, and we're going to pass it true. Okay. Now, here's a new fun thing, because once the user submitted, then we need to show this screen, right? So what we're going to do is in our card, or in our app here, we're going to wrap the card in curly braces to say this is now JavaScript. And we're going to say user submitted, or we're going to say not user submitted so that we can show this card first. Okay, and then question mark, and then we give it this card. Okay, and then after this card at the bottom, we're going to do the colon, and we're going to do another card. Okay, and it's going to say user submitted in here. Okay, so you should have, it should add these once you save, but
User submitted, question mark.
so not user submitted question mark,
Right.
and then here's the user submitted stuff up here. So the other thing we want to do is on handle submit, we want to check and make sure that the user has actually selected a rating so that we don't allow them to submit without selecting a rating. So we'll say if not user rating, return. That way if there's no user rating, because this is undefined, then it won't submit. So if I come here and hit submit, oh, that's not the browser. So that doesn't do anything. Once I say the value 3, then notice now I see user submitted in my card. Okay, refresh will take you back to the original one. Okay. All right. Now we want to build that other view. So should be fairly easy here. Yes.
You sound very confident.
Yes. So first in our card, we're going to create an image. Okay. Source is going to be submitted image. Alt equals. Is that a credit card scanner? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? Submitted form icon, maybe. Okay, so here's going to be the you selected 4 out of 5 thing. So for now, I'm just going to create a paragraph or a span that does this. Okay, you selected, and then we want the user in the curlies. We're going to say user rating, because that's our state, out of 5. Okay. And then we're going to say h1 with class name, title, thank you, exclamation point, and then paragraph with class name, copy is gonna say, we appreciate you taking the time to give a rating. If you ever need more support, don't hesitate to get in touch! Exclamation point. Okay. So that's all we need for that, except for we just need to import this image. So up here, import submitted image from images / and I gotta look up what the name is. Illustration -thank -u .svg. Okay. Now, the only thing we don't have is we don't have the styling for that little spot here. And then our image is kind of off to the side. So we just need to add some styling to make it look right. But we essentially got our form submitting and our next thing over.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So, just like with normal HTML CSS, when you went bigger, you're going to add media queries in the CSS to make that. But what questions do you have as far as React goes?
No questions. I just, I'm looking at it and I see I'm skipping steps that I did before, so it's, I feel like it's user friendly.
I'm recognizing a little bit of like confusion with like it being this is the state now, or other terminology that I'm not familiar with at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or at least not being able to follow like what is meaning. But I mean, with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that was kind of easy.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know.
What the state stuff does?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at that, right? So essentially what's happening is this use state
Yeah.
function. Let's write that function. Okay, I'm going to just create a new file here. Okay. So we'd have a function called useState. Okay. Well, we can do it this way too. Function useState. Okay. And this is going to accept initial state, like we talked about, right? And it's going to have two things that it does. It's going to keep track of whatever the initial state is. So we're going to say const state equals initial state. Okay. And then it's also going to have a function that says const set state equals, or we could even say function set state equal, and then we'll say new state. Okay. So immediately you start to look at this and think, oh, this should be maybe a class, right? Because it has this state piece. Okay. So, or this needs to be let, right? Let state. So, and then you could say state equals new state. Okay. And then what it's going to do is it's going to say return an array, and the array is going to have state as the first thing and set state as the second thing. Okay, so now when we call, if I was to grab this, and let's just go straight into the browser and do about blank, so that I just have a console here. make this bigger. Okay, so I'm just going to throw my use state function in here. Okay, and I'm going to say const state, or we'll just go say state st or s equals use state, and we're going to say the number 1. Okay, so s is an array with the first index being the number 1 and the second index being this set state function. Okay, so now I'm going to say s dot set, or s1, which is that function, and I'm going to call it with the number 3. Okay, and then I'm going to look at s. So this is where I was saying it probably needs to be a class, because right now it doesn't actually update anything, right?
Okay.
But if I said s equals, let's say t equals s dot, or s1 3, t isn't anything. So let's try and rewrite it so it's a class. So we'll say, actually it'd be function. We could write it as a with the class syntax, or we could just say use state dot set state, and say this dot state. And then this dot set state equals, and we'll make it into an arrow function. We'll say this dot state, and then this dot state, and this dot set state. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to do that instead. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get S set back up again. Okay, and this time I'm going to actually destructure it. Okay, so I'm going to say let. So now I have S, and S equals just the state. Okay, and then if I had set S equals, or set S is the function, and if I sent in 3, now S, anyway, it's supposed to update, yeah. So the idea would be that it would update, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, the reason it didn't work is I need to let's go back to this way, and we're going to say new use state. So now we're going to do S1. Let's see what S equals. So I don't think this will ever update in this way, because we would need some sort of like getter to get the new state. So if I said this dot get state equals this dot state, right? Then this is what we would want to do. So now it would be S equals new use state 1. Okay, and we'd say S dot get state is going to give us 1, and S dot set state 5. Now if I did S dot get state, it's going to give me the 5 back. Okay, So under the hood, that's what the use state is doing, but the way React works is because I have this here, it's gonna keep this user rating up to date with whatever the latest state is. Okay, and it's doing this smart under the hood. Okay, and it's always gonna have that be updated. So anytime I call set user rating, then this user rating variable will get updated to whatever I passed. Okay.
Which comes from the ratings array.
So in this case, it does because I'm passing that, right? But it's whatever I want it to be.
Yeah.
So if I had, if I created like a counter, so let me quickly create another npx create React app counter. Sorry, it's gonna take a second apparently.
So looking at just function app, creating a constant ratings, it's making the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 array, which is then brought down to the class of ratings, and that div, where it's being mapped
Mm-hmm.
onto rating, or is rating the object that's passing through.
Rating is the
It's being mapped.
yeah, what's being mapped is this ratings array,
Okay.
right? So we're mapping the ratings array, and then we're getting each rating. So this is, or we could call this val or whatever we want to write.
And that's
So this is whatever number at the current time that you're coming through the array.
which is defined by
Which would be each of these. Okay. So let's see, code counter. Maybe another example here. So I'm going to go into the app.js. Get rid of all this stuffs. Okay, I'm going to put, so I'm going to use the use state again. I'm going to set this to 0, and this is going to be count, set, count. Okay, so current count is 0, right? And I'm going to, down here, I'm just going to have div with count in it. Okay, and I can show you, here's another way I can do styling, is I can just pass it a style parameter. And this takes an object with all the styles. So I'm going to say height, 100 view heights, width, 100 view widths, display flex.
Do you do this often?
No. There's a better way to do it, and I'll show you guys that later. Align items, center. Okay, I'm going to change this to an H1 just so it gets some styling. And then I'm going to have div with 2 buttons in it. This one's going to say plus, and this one's going to say minus. I'm going to throw some style on here. Display flex. Width 300. Justify content. Space between. And then I'm going to say on click equals, and call this one increment. And on click equals decrement. And up here, I'm going to create an increment function and a decrement function. Okay, so yes, run this on a different port. It's going to open. It's going to be maybe broken. Let's see. Nope. Okay. So it's ugly, super ugly. Oh, it's because I have this. So let's see. Flex direction column. Okay, so I have my initial count here, which came from the setting.
Reverse, please.
What?
Can you do reverse? If the plus is on the left and the minus is on the
Yes.
bottom.
Okay, so so that 0 comes from me setting it here. So if I said the started at 100, then it automatically is 100. Okay, so that's this count right here. Okay, which I'm using right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna set it back to 0, and I'm gonna put this here so I don't have to keep going back and forth. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is whenever I click this button, it's gonna call the decrement function, and click this one, it's gonna call increment function. I'll throw this down at the bottom, pull it up this way, make it not that big, and we'll just say console.log increment. Oops. Decrement. Okay, so you can see decrement's called, increment's called, right? And so now what I'm going to do is, instead of just calling that, I'm going to call set count. I'm going to say set count, and I'm going to pass it, and I can pass it anything I want. So I could set it to 100 here, right? So now when I click this, it goes to 100. It'll never change from that because that's what I'm setting it to.
Yeah. So you do just plus
Okay.
1.
So I could say count plus 1, save it, refresh it. Okay, and I could also do count minus 1, right? Okay, so like I said, and you can see even when I saved it, it's keeping that state. So the way that Create React App works is it does hot module reloading, and it keeps your state up to date for whatever it was at, or it tries to, best it can. Okay, so if I had set this at 100, or let's say I have another button that's const is 100 equals set count 100, right? And let's add a button down here. Is 100. Set it to 100. Okay, so we'll always set it back to 100, right? So another thing you could do is plus 5 minus 5. And I could throw the function right in here as well. I don't have to create a function out there. So I could just say set count minus 5. Count plus 5. Okay. So again, see it's still at 91 because that was the state it was at. Okay. So, but that state will just, the way React works is each time state changes, it will figure out what the state is, set it in that variable, and re-render your JavaScript or your JSX. Okay? So all this stuff gets re-rendered each time. So let's say I also have some style here on the minus button, or even, let's see, let's do it on this one, on the H1. Let's throw some style here, and we're going to say color, and we're going to say count is greater than 10, then the color will be green. Else, if count is less than 5, or less than 10, say, then the color will be yellow. Else, so this is how you do a long if statement, right? If the count is less than 2, then the color will be red, or we'll say orange. Otherwise, it's red. And it's upset with that for some reason. Oh, probably needs a bunch of these. Got myself in a weird state because I did too many of them.
Oh, okay. So when you go above 2, it's 3.
Let's throw red here and see. Okay. Ooh,
And the long right.
count is less than 10. It should be yellow. It's greater than 10. It should be green.
And the red is the neutral.
So red is 10.
And count is greater than 5. It's yellow. So let's say five is red, 6 is yellow, 10 is red. Oh, say greater than or equal to 10. I'll do the same thing here. Okay, and the other thing we could do is in our decrement we could say if count is greater than if count is equal to 0, return, so that it doesn't go negative. Okay, although it's going to go negative there. So, but yeah. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with that state. And you can see each time React is saying, okay, so let's run this whole function again, which is this app function. So anytime state changes, it runs this app function. So you call this set count, and it'll set the new count, it'll run this function, and count will get updated to whatever it was. Okay? Is that more clear on how use state works?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very-
A lot, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a little bit bigger application, but where you've already built it, I wanted you to see what React does for you. So, the other thing we could do is, because this is such a big chunk of code, we could create another component for this, right? Or like a page for this, and then have all of this in that component. And just, because the only thing we would need from here is these two state variables, right? So we could even take ratings out of app and have the first page and the second page, or the rating page and the, well, thank you page. So, and eventually we'll get into routing too, where the browser URL will change because you're going to a different thing. Okay? So this gives you an app to build. So if it's not working, you haven't finished it, then finish it on the video. But also, you can also follow what I did here and just kind of play around with how use state works.
Right.
But like I said, we're also going to be using this curriculum for the front end development with React. And it has some things to do, but the first stuff for this sprint is not React. It's all just JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Okay? So, yeah, Classroom already has the Sprint 6, which is just this one task that has all of the ones that you need to finish. So there's all these lessons, which is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lessons and 2 exercises to do. Okay,
All right.
cool. And next time we will talk about these exercises. So this exercise, the JavaScript fundamentals. So if you guys can get at least to that point and work on them, then we can kind of walk through them and talk about them. Because I don't think these exercises have the walkthrough videos like the last time.
Yeah.
So, okay,
It's Thursday.
it's Thursday.